ChatGPT and said, change the words as if you're talking to a 5-year-old. Change how you ChatGPT and said, change the words as if you're talking to a 5-year-old. Change how you would explain, give us the examples. And then they used Midjourney, put those concepts together, and gave that child a coloring book. So here you go, let's color together. And I thought, wow, what a way of delivering healthcare. Join me in transforming healthcare using AI. It's the year 2022, and I'm playing with ChatGPT for the very first time. And I think to myself, this is going to change healthcare. In fact, it moved me so much that I literally started writing a book on ChatGPT and healthcare and literally got it published within 3 weeks. I'm so excited about how AI is going to help us all. I want to reflect at this small little scar that I have here in the hand, and it reminds me of the healthcare that I personally had. It was horrible. I waited for hours in the emergency room, and the worst part for me is the doctor didn't use any anesthetic. And I told myself I will grow up one day to be a doctor and to be compassionate and to help others. What started as a public service announcement just to help my fellow physicians and healthcare professionals and patients on how to use AI to get a better healthcare outcome became something huge. I literally was getting called all around the world to talk on the biggest world stages on how AI could help healthcare. And the person's from West Africa, they look at me like, I have no idea what he just said. But now I can use the power of ChatGPT or any of these tools and say, hey, give me some examples. Like, this is my example in the US. What is it in West Africa? And then I can give that to the patient. I'm teaching hospital systems and clinics how to use AI in healthcare, how we can best leverage these tools to prevent healthcare physician burnout, to help and create better efficiency for our patients. And I'm doing fun stuff like using plushies like this, and which are connected to ChatGPT, and having conversations with our healthcare providers and how they could use a tool like this to create better discharge instructions for our patients. So what is the future? I really think we're going to start using robots through a third party that will be released this year. With this kind of creation, you could put on the eyes of the robot being powered by ChatGPT 4, 5, and what it could do is this. It could look at someone and say that person's sugar is this, their blood pressure is this is their age, and it could be an amazing tool. It could be a reference. So my commitment is patients are safe. I'm doing talks on empowering our patients, making sure they're using these tools correctly, and they understand the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to AI in healthcare. But more importantly, I am creating these tools because if I am teaching them, I'm also learning how to use them myself and creating my own AI products, so that other healthcare providers and non-healthcare providers can use these tools to improve healthcare. Join me in transforming healthcare. Let's schedule a call on how we can create a better healthcare for tomorrow. Well, welcome, my friend. Good to see you, and I'm really excited. And Brooks, I want to play his video. I know we have a huge event coming. I cannot wait to check out this amazing conference. It'll be my first, Daniel, so I'm like super stoked. I'm like a little kid in the candy store ready to jump in and meet all these amazing leaders. Brooks, do you want to play his video? And then after that, we'll start with him.
I don't want to create a world where some small percentage of us gets to live 100 with health and the rest of the world is struggling.
How do we do more? How do we do better? And how do we do it faster?
3.8 billion people on the planet have a smartphone. And if we pair a smartwatch for that, we have a health monitoring system for half the planet.
As healthcare innovators and healthcare leaders, you are central and so important to creating the future that we'd like to see in the world.
So, question is, how do you bring that to life?
We're here at NextMed Health. It's a bit of a gathering of a tribe of folks who are instigators, sometimes mavericks, sometimes learners, sometimes funders, who are trying to sort of understand the challenges of today and solve for them.
At this moment, this particular patient is flying over fjords in Iceland. But moments before we took this picture, he was doubled over in pain from sickle cell anemia.
Now in 2013, if I told you that the killer app for low-cost EEG sensing was going to be meditation, you'd probably think I was crazy.
Currently in healthcare, we sit in the clinic, waiting for people to arrive sick on our doorstep.
The pathological understanding of diseases has all been understood on a male baseline.
Are we fixing the right problem?
We have 70 plus faculty from all around the world sharing their great lessons and learnings and meeting each other and making sparks fly.
You know, I'm not supposed to be here.
Living to 120 or 150 is going to become commonplace for young people today.
I decided that we could use light and sound instead of radiation, gamma rays, 2-ton magnetic fields, holes in our skull with needles digging down into our neurons.
Within our own lifetime, we can massively change the way we experience our body. And literally, that's the aha moment.
How do we develop these technologies and do it in a way that humanizes us?
Connection is the #1 predictor of longevity after midlife.
We knew that the only chance that I had at survival would be to identify an existing drug that could be repurposed for me.
Oh, I think the talks are amazing. One of the things that I enjoyed the most is the variety.
I think this is possibly the best conference in the world.
There's so much to do, it's hard to decide if you want to be in a main session, having your mind blown by incredible talks by amazing people and feel that vibe in the room, or if you want to be outside in the innovation lab, checking out new tech.
In the evenings, you go to the beach, have dinner under the stars, you can actually have silent discos, karaoke. In the mornings, for example, you can have meditation with Swami. You can go and learn how to form magic, or indeed learn how to juggle, which I learned the other day for the first time. So it's that kind of creativity that comes out within the complex world of medicine.
If we're actually moving the needle on clinical decision making, that's where the human intelligence and the machine intelligence working together gets pretty exciting.
This is a gentleman who is paralyzed from the waist down, but he has an EEG device on his head, and when he imagines he wants to walk, that signal gets decoded by an algorithm, sent to this exoskeleton, and it helps to move his legs forward like this.
And this conference is hardcore. There's a lot of real hard-hitting science that's getting exchanged.
If you can read DNA, you can pretty much understand anything biological.
Where the light hits the moving blood cells, the light ricochets, creating a different pattern on that red camera chip.
Ultimately, at this conference, we're all solving the same problems, just in different systems.
Oh, it's inspiring. I like the whole intersection of purpose and technology, bringing change in healthcare.
It's been absolutely incredible just to be able to meet other like-minded people who are super inspiring and want to change the world.
All of the time, we were being taught how to identify signs and symptoms from the perspective of white skin. But I would sit there in the lecture theatre and ask myself, if I had that same condition, what would it look like on me?
It's phenomenal. It's always full of energy. You meet great people. You meet some future collaborators.
I would probably say just go and do it.
We can create a more equitable, healthier society.
The only way to make it happen is together.
We're going to keep chasing after cures, but we can't do it alone. We really, really need your help, and we need you guys to join us on this mission that we're on.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Come join us in the NextMed Health community. It's for all folks interested in reimagining the future of health and medicine. Please join us in 2024 for NextMed Health.
Come to NextMed!
Yes, where real magic happens.
Yes.
All right. Well, Daniel, thank you so much, Doc, for coming. It's always an honor to have you and talk to you. And I'll save all my questions for the end, so I'll give you the floor if you want to present your amazing presentation, and we'll jump right in.
Well, I think we just saw a nice little. First of all, thanks for having me, Harvey. Always great to mix it up with you in virtual or the metaverse or the physical verse. Of course, my AI is not working well. I've got a real background, unfortunately. I can't turn on my background. You know, as you saw in that video, NextMed Health is a pretty special kind of super convergence of folks like you and from other realms that you meet and cross-fertilize with. And the magic has always sort of been, I'll see if I can even share my screen here for a second. That's always the challenge as well, to kind of get people out of their silos, because we're all used to, tell me if you can see that. We're all used to.
I see, I'm gonna add it. I just added it. And then
yeah,
I'm gonna put my.
Can't hear you now, but you can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just in 2 minutes, you shared that beautiful video, but the future is built at this super convergence. Many of us are clinicians. I'm a hematologist, oncologist, a cardiologist, a primary care doctor, nurse. It's very rare that we often blend in the same sort of meeting. We're often going to siloed gatherings that are sort of focused on one specialty, or medtech, or pharma, or AI. And the magic happens when you bring folks together from these different worlds. And Hotel Del is where we have this event. It's a famous old resort on the West Coast, built in the 1880s. We always have a Scrubs picture. Last year it rained, so we were inside. But it's kind of that community piece. And what's different than being at a HIMSS or a larger meeting is everyone's in the same ballroom, gets the same core content from our amazing faculty. We have this innovation lab. If any of you have an amazing startup, we have room for about 60 with about 300 applications so far, really for cutting edge startups so you can touch the future a bit early. And then we have fun deep dive breakout workshops, AI meets medicine, to morning yoga with our Swami, who likes to say the only medication you need is meditation. And we blend in art, music, and other fun elements. So that's kind of the core thing. It's sort of a community. We're turning it into less of a once-a-year platform, but more of an annual membership and gathering. So hope you can join us. It's coming up soon, March 30th, April 2nd in San Diego. We have some amazing faculty, from Dean Kamen to Larry Brilliant to Jennifer Garrison from the Buck to Katrina Jameson to Amir Dan Rubin from One Medical. I won't go on and on, but bottom line, come join us. I'm happy to have Harvey there for the first time. And we'll certainly be covering a through line of what's happening with AI, robotics, synthesizing and integrating, and really reshaping the future of health and medicine. So now let's have a conversation.
All right. Well, Doc, I wanted to see, I know you said you may present a presentation. Did you want to do that, or do you want to just do our Q&A? It's up to you, my friend.
Oh, no, I think we'll do Q&A. I just showed you a couple of slides about NextMed.
Okay. Well, let's
just have a conversation. I think it's more interesting.
Yeah, let's have fun. Well, I'm going to say the first time I met you in November, it was fun. Just having a conversation with you, talking about the future, and having a colleague, a physician, a futurist, to be able to kind of bounce ideas. It was fun. I could tell you and I immediately were geeking out. So I thought, we got to do this. And here we are. Let's just start with some simple one. Like, I'm curious, and we're going to ask people in the audience just to start putting any questions you have about AI and healthcare. But I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, back when you and I were training to currently and now the future, how do you see medical education with AI? How do you see, what was it back then, and what kind of tools do you wish you had now that we could have had back in the day?
Well, back in the day, just to date myself, in the 90s when I was a medical student at Stanford, I was the first person to get this little Hewlett Packard HL 160. It was this little pocket computer that you could type some little notes in and beam them to somebody else. That was probably 1995. But I was the outlier, right? I actually did a rotation with John Halamka, who was my resident in the ER at UCLA Harbor, and we were the two geeks who had a little pocket computer, and that was an outlier. We used to handwrite our notes, which had some benefits, by the way. You could just see who was writing, you could understand their handwriting, or some chart bloat. But just think about it now. A medical student who starts in 2025 medical school, they're not going to be finished with medical school and, let's say, a basic 3-year residency until 2033 or 2032. What's the world going to look like then? It's only been, 2.25 years since ChatGPT emerged in the world, and see how much that's already impacted everything from workflows and medical education. And it's still very, very early days. So I think there's a couple questions, and we'll address some of that in NextMed Health. What's the future of the workforce? Not just doctors, but nurses and pharmacists and physical therapists, mental health, et cetera. Who do we choose for things like medical school? We had to go and do the MCATs and be pretty good at memorization, organic chemistry. I went to Brown University. Thank God I could take calculus, pass, fail. But what are the skill sets that we need? Maybe it's more EQ, not just IQ, human intelligence, knowing a bit about coding, about integrating digital health tools. So AI, of course, is a super layer, and it's upskilling all of us in certain ways. I think there's also a potential downside. So you and I, most of the folks for clinicians today, are sometimes pre-digital, certainly pre-GPT. And there's this famous quote from Sam Altman, that GPT is like an e-bike for the mind, which is great. Yeah, we get a little faster, it's a little easier, it'll outline stuff, might write a book for you, but that's great. But what if your kids never learn how to ride a regular bike, or never develop their biking muscles in the first place? Or if you're a medical student, you never develop a differential diagnosis with your own brain by yourself. You're always going to the GPT agent. So what do we lose? I mean, it's not like we want to go back to slide rules, but how do we keep our cognitive skills sharp? How do we blend and merge with AI and Gen AI in smart ways? And then how do we build that into medical education so that we're doing things in smart ways that keep humans in the loop, and make a workforce that does the human part really well, but it's enhanced by technology.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to that. I was just talking to someone yesterday about this, and I'm personally worried about the hallucination with the wrong physician not understanding how AI works. Case in point, you and I have decades in healthcare. We understand medicine, and we can look at ChatGPT, and if it says something it hallucinates, you and I be like, okay, that's wrong. But we keep going because we know what's right, and what's wrong. I'm worried about the medical student, the resident that doesn't have the clinical gestalt, the years that you and I have, that looks at that output and says, oh, this is the gold standard and this is the way to go. And unfortunately or fortunately, some of those individuals will be the people that are going to take care of us. So I'm glad to see that you're having this conference because it's going to educate those future leaders, those future individuals to understand how these things work and say, you know what, I need to be aware. So I think it's important.
We did this also study, like, something seemed like a panacea. You get what you incentivize, and sometimes we incentivize the wrong things. There was that, famous case, hospital readmissions for CHF. You didn't get paid if it was before 30 days. So they let people, stay to day 31, and the mortality morbidity was higher. When do we incentivize using these tools, and how do we measure the outcomes? And how do we start to educate? Because some of this, in many ways, our AI science friends don't even know how it works. And certainly there's a black box element to it. And it certainly depends on the quality of the data and what it was trained on. And how do we often sometimes run the trials in real time? And sometimes that's going to be based on the workflows, right? And something might seem trustable, but it might be hallucination. So how do we sort of measure that, right? You get what you measure. Some of these things are a little more fuzzy. It's not just whether it's the answer right or wrong, but, did you integrate social determinants of health? Are there other things that you start measuring? I'm an oncologist. It's not just the tumor size, but quality of life and other metrics. So it's a complex and exciting time for all of us to reimagine medical education, the workforce, self-health, global health. And I think big picture, I think we're both optimists that AI is one through line. It's really going to help democratize access and equity, particularly in the current environment where in some places it's being reversed.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go through some of the questions that we posted online. So we knock those out, and then we'll hit all the ones in the comment. One of them we talked about is, what is the role of AI in early diagnosis, treatment, and patient engagement? What are some things that come to mind that you think you're kind of excited about, or you're like, oh, Harvey, this is going to be amazing in the future?
Well, the future's coming faster than you think. I think I shared it on LinkedIn. I discovered this little new conversational chatbot. We've all talked to some GPT agents, and some of them are getting a little more fun. But this one, someone has to remind me the name or put it in the link, is like super conversational with almost zero latency. And so you can see that this sort of AI clinician chatbot is essentially almost already here, because once you let that tap into your Apple Health data or your wearable data, your genomics, and it has a little bit of other access to health information, that's going to start to be your health guide. And it's going to be multimodal. It's not just going to be looking at your steps and your sleep, but knows what you did last summer and knows what your genetics are. So what I'm excited about in terms of democratizing health and access, given that it's so hard to see a primary care doc, is already today the tools are there to you've turned yourself into an avatar. So if that could be the avatar that shows up super conversationally, 2 a.m, 4 a.m, knows from your voice biomarkers if you're stressed or maybe something else is going on, and can start to really, give you what I call not generative AI, but generative health, where these agentic health agents are going to talk to you based on your age, your culture, your language, your personality type, your health goals, and help nudge you on the behavioral side, but also help manage diagnostics and therapy. And that's going to integrate with clinical care. Is going to be super interesting, but people are building them already.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that. One of the things you said is generative discharge. And one of my examples that I love sharing with others is, how many times, especially you as an oncologist, have told someone, and that the minute you said you have cancer or a diagnosis that's going to change your life, at that second, everything after that, it's the Charlie Brown moment. They're not hearing you. They're still processing that you told them you have cancer. But what if we use this technology, like you said, to say the right words, the right culturally sensitive things to say? But then what if we use AI to record us? And now at 2 a.m, the next day, or your wife says, hey, what did the doctor say? You can play that and you can relive that moment in the sense that you can understand. Because as doctors, we're going over everything, but then the minute you got that bad diagnosis, you're not listening anymore. And I get it. And so this is a new way of just delivering that care. And I love what you said about this personalized care. That's another part that I'm really excited. This predictive analytics. How can we use this in the future? All these medications that are being made with AI. And then for that predictive analytics, I'm biased when I say I'm an ER doctor. I'm constantly looking at what's going to happen. And if there's an outbreak of food poisoning, and the AI is able to tell me, hey, that's 7 different outbreaks that we're seeing. And now I can call the restaurant and say, hey, I think it's your restaurant that's causing this, and being able to stop this. I think it just makes it exciting because I'm thinking, man, this might be the next way to stop the pandemic. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I call it predictalytics, right? It's one thing that the analytics, but how does it predict for any one patient or individual? And today, a lot of our healthcare is based on the average patient, and no one's average. When you read a clinical trial or study, it's often not the folks with comorbidities, and so we kind of treat to the mean. And what these new tools are, predictalytics, is sort of baked into our sort of now crowdsourced world. I mean, think about that's 15 years ago now, more now, before we had Google Maps and Waze. We used to actually use paper maps. We use our brains to get around. Now my kids can't get around without Google Maps. But to that point now, what if with Google Maps we're sharing data, but we get back a map of the traffic that's hyper local to us? And in terms of predictalytics, you can predict the traffic. You can dial it up. What if I leave at 9 in the morning or during rush hour, or depending on traffic and weather, day of the week. So I think we're going to end up with this predictalytic world where we can hopefully crowdsource when people opt in and do it in smart, anonymized ways. What's relevant happening for the patient in front of me or the population in front of me? So it's not just the average, and we can sort of build that real-time health map that's going to really inform and be layered in with AI, machine learning, and big data. Because a lot of what we do is sort of based on prior history. You've been in the ER in a certain location, you had this history, you've seen a number of patients with X disease. That doesn't mean that's going to be most appropriate for the workup or diagnostic or therapy for that patient in front of you, because you have a limited experience. The power of AI, machine learning, big data, and hopefully new workflows is that you can get the most appropriate, up-to-date, within minutes, information for you and that clinical case in front of you.
And then I'm going to jump to the questions. But before I go there, I want to ask you, because I know you and I were at CES. Out of all the things you heard, read, saw, what was the one thing you're like, okay, I really like this thing at CES?
Wow. What did I like at CES? Well, one thing is, it's often no one thing. Sometimes there's trends. Everything had AI in it, of course. But there was the AARP Health Tech Pavilion. Actually, AARP is going to be coming to NextMed Health, Amelia. Is like putting these point solutions and integrating them. There's a lot happening in the digital health space, for example. So, small aside, I built a platform called digital.health, put that in the chat, which is a platform now with over 5,000 health solutions that for those host clinicians we could use, or as patients you could use. But there's a lot out there. But to make a real solution, you can't just have one wearable or a disconnected scale or blood pressure cuff. You need to bundle them together. So what was interesting to see there is this H-Tech collaborative with a lot of interesting solutions, wearable exoskeletons, voice biomarkers, things that can help folks with reading and mobility disabilities, but start to connect those dots to solve for challenges of aging, or it could be a challenge of oncology or cardiology, or pick your realm. So I think the challenge of CES is a lot of amazing shiny objects. We know as clinicians and folks who are in health innovation, it's not about the technology, it's often about the workflow and the incentives and the regulation. And how do you make those really build a solution? That you don't want an app for every disease or a wearable for every disease or an AI agent for every little condition. The integration is going to be key. CES, you see a lot of those dots starting to coalesce.
Yeah. I'm just going to share one real quick. This was kind of geeky, but it's the one I love the most for me. I saw the AI spoon. So they gave me some terrible soup that tasted like needed more salt. I cranked up this AI spoon to level 5, and then I had this little bit of the soup, and I was like, holy cow. My brain is now perceiving I'm having more salt. And I thought, man, for my hypertensive patients, my CHF patients, this is the way to go. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right, buddy.
Well, one other thing I saw there that is, it's been the future for a while, but actually it's been built. Things had this sort of, prototype of their AI-enabled smart mirror, right? So that future that's sort of been postulated for a while, you get up, you're brushing your teeth, your toothbrush might be picking up your mouth microbiome and report it on the screen, but that sort of mirror element of being able to give you integrated health information, kind of that agentic stuff that's really based on who you are, and showing that to you in a meaningful way, maybe at the beginning of your day or when you're about to go to bed, those sort of touch points, because health is usually not healthcare, but sick care, and you wait to have a problem and go to the clinic, ER, ICU. But to be able to integrate that into your mirror or maybe say, oh, your sodium's running a little high based on your facial characteristics. We're going to have you use your special spoon today. That's the kind of stuff that gets exciting, is connecting those dots.
Yeah, and let's just, since you mentioned it, let's go there. This video feed, if we connected the right algorithms, it could tell us if we're pre-diabetic. Our voices, there's all these voice markers, as you know. That's really cool. I'm excited. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm seeing my doctors tell a doc or some, not tell doc itself, just telemedicine. And how many analytics can be running in the background to tell, hey, Harvey, he's got diabetes. Hey, you're at risk for Parkinson's disease. And then it's just taking it all from our voice or the feed. I'm really stoked about that. That to me is crazy.
Well, one good example of that, and we'll have the leader of that project at NextMed Health, is Click Health Labs, to this project looking at voice as a biomarker, and it can pick up CHF and early neurologic disorders and is that cough, croup, cold, or COVID. But they found that they could tune it to understand your voice, could predict your blood sugar. Doesn't need to be exactly to the milligram, but if you're a pre-diabetic or diabetic and you're talking on the phone, it gives you one of those like, hey, Harvey, your blood sugar is running 150 consistently. Maybe you need to get your hemoglobin A1C and go check out your metabolic health. That's kind of an exciting other biomarker. There's a company that will be at NextMed also called BioTrillion that's going beyond the sort of camera that can do your heart rate and blood pressure, but look at small micro elements, tremor, eye elements that might correlate with neurologic disease. So this idea of the medical selfie can extend in all sorts of different ways, from the camera on your laptop to your phone to your Internet of Medical thing home. And there's those early insights, picking up disease at stage 0, not stage 2 or 3, where I think we have the real opportunity to move the needle across healthcare.
All right, well, let me jump into this first question. Thanks. We hear about people who are nervous about change. In your opinion, what are the possible risks for incorporating healthcare into everyday practice? And what do you do to mitigate this so that we can use this technology?
Well, change is hard. I love this quote from, I think it's John Maynard Keynes. It was shared to us by the head of innovation from NHS at the last NextMed, that in summary, it's easy to sort of get excited. We all get excited roughly by the new things, some of these technologies we're talking about, but often the challenge is not it's changing our mindsets, because people are very attached to the old ways of doing things. And so I'm misquoting it from my coffee deprived brain at the moment, but the technology is not often the challenge. It's the human software, the psychology of change, the culture of medicine, right? The interventional cardiologist, they'll try a lot of stuff, but the neurologist and the OB-GYN, very, very conservative. And so folks are nervous about change, particularly when it changes their incentives. And we know that we don't practice evidence-based medicine, we practice reimbursement-based medicine. If your reimbursement is based on you doing a certain procedure, catheterization, or X, Y, or Z, and it changes to an AI-enabled app or some mobile hospital-to-home thing, you're going to be nervous because that's going to affect your bottom line. So that's why in some cases, we need to really move to more, not just value-based care, but more outcome-based care. We're rewarded for the end state of health or prevention or less hospitalizations, et cetera. Because incentives are often, as we know in healthcare, very, very misaligned. And we have many scattered healthcare systems here in the US, and we spend the most per capita and have the sickest population per dollar. So lots of opportunity. And the change piece is there. There's a term called implementation science. It's like a classic quote: it takes 17 years for something being published in New England Journal to become standard of care. For example, treating ulcers without surgery. Now with AI agents and smart workflows, hopefully when something gets published 2 days before, it could be available to you at the bedside or the website right away. So I think we need to think about the culture change, who you're talking to, and then how do you let them see that change and touch it so they know it's making a difference for them and their patients, and it's not misaligned from their pay line.
Agree. We'll jump to the next question. This is from, let's see, how is AI going to shape primary care and hospice medicine, the fields with the most unstructured data? You can see that he's a data scientist by the question.
Great question. Well, primary care is broken in most places, right? There's a shortage of primary care docs. Number one, we can upskill a lot of folks. There's a lot of turf battles between physician associates or assistants, there's practitioners. But given that many areas in the country without a primary care doc for hundreds of miles, we need to rethink primary care, make it less physical or virtual, but phygital. Again, you still want that relationship, but you can upskill the primary care doc or nurse practitioner or practice to have more digital touch points. Have that digital companion as part of the care platform. So a small example, In India, there's very few primary care docs. There's 1 billion folks there almost with no access to care. And I've helped launch, I'm on the board of this company called Jivi.ai. So I'm going to put in the chat, try this out, Jivi.ai. We built it with Andrew Ng's AI fund and some very smart computer science and AI folks out of India. It's already launched. It's got multiple LLMs. It's winning Hugging Face on the scale of how it performs. And at its core, it has a very smart AI doctor. You can talk to it in Hindi or in Swahili or in English or Spanish, and it will help you through a triage case. It might point you to go to the ER right away or to take a chill pill or go get a lab or x-ray, but it gives folks access who wouldn't have any access. So that's in India. It's going to leapfrog and go over there. It also has Ayurvedic medicine and prevention and wellness built into the camera that could do your vitals. That is democratizing primary care to folks who have almost a huge gap. Now, what's going to happen here in the U.S., it's Jivi.ai, Jivi.ai, Jivi, which means something like health in Hindi. So try it out, give me some feedback. It's pretty amazing already. And imagine when every primary care doc in the US has a partner with that, not just to use for that in their practices. There you go. Again, this is still early days. So that's one. Hospice care, another one where you have lots of demands. The AI agent can heavily be the coach for the caregiver, for the family, for the hospice nurse. It can make people feel connected. Maybe you bring in a VR experience so they can connect with their friends and family from around the world to say their goodbyes. Some really powerful experiences can happen in virtual reality. In fact, there's a startup called, I think it's called Nora Health. I'm not sure. They're using Oculus Quests to help folks who are in hospice connect with their families. And they're not there as avatars. There's almost beings of spiritual light. And apparently it's a very, very powerful way to meet and connect with your family or friends in virtual space that could be part of our experience for ending well.
Awesome. Jump to the next one. How do you bring AI into the hospitals? For example, must use AI for radiology reading, however, not reading pathology slides yet. Also, it would be useful to have at every patient's bedside an AI bot to help explain the medications they are on or the lab results, etc. How does a physician approach the hospital with these suggestions?
Well, taking the last part, how does a physician approach the hospital, right? You, as a clinician, are the need knower. You see where the pain points are. The patient doesn't understand what's going on, or my radiology reports are faster than my pathology reports. So everyone here can be, I went through Stanford Biodesign as a bone marrow transplant fellow, and the lesson there was take a notebook and keep a notebook of unmet needs that can be solved for, sometimes by building your own AI chatbot without even knowing how to code, or someone's collaborating with a medical device professional, et cetera. So see a problem and don't just approach this hospital and say, here's a suggestion. Go to digital.health. There might be 5 solutions for it already, where there's a platform that goes to the bedside and you put the meds in and it talks to that patient, whether they have an 8th grade education or they're a PhD in biostatistics, that you need a different communication style. So there might be solutions already there that you can implement. And then maybe at your clinic or your hospital, you start like an innovation ward where you don't wait for it to become approved or FDA cleared. You try it out. You find the company. You do your mini pilot and you go, hey, this is really working. And that can catalyze to the rest of your clinic, hospital system, the state, the country, to the world. So we need to catalyze these things. A lot of solutions are already out there. And I think the opportunity is for all of us to be the need knowers, finding the problem, sometimes solving it with existing solutions, or if the solutions don't exist. It's a pretty amazing age where we all can build them collaboratively pretty quickly.
Agreed. Well said. Now, Doug here says, how can AI enhance the doctor-patient relationship? And I know that's like a whole, that could be a whole talk. So what do you think?
Well, I think Eric Topol said it best, and he's been a prior NextMed Health and should be back this year, is that AI can bring back the joy in medicine, right? So much of our time has been patient-centered care where they're backing the patient on the typing the EMR note to feed the billing beast, and you get very little face time with your patient, hand-holding time. And now you can spend time with the notes being written by the AI to hold the hand, look in the eyes, spend more human quality piece. So that can really enhance relationship. Even if it's the same 20-minute window, 5 more minutes or 20% more time of human time where the AI can take out the scut work and get rid of the pajama time at the end of the day, makes the doctor or the clinician happier and healthier, and also that relationship tighter. And then, if Harvey, you're my patient, and I've just seen you in the clinic or the ER, and I can send you a digital, how you doing? Maybe it's not me maybe doing it, my AI agent's checking in. There was a company founded by Jordan Schlang called Health Loop. And if someone going home from a total knee replacement, it would say, how you doing every day? Same, better, worse. If you were doing a little worse, maybe you had to dive into that. Maybe it was your calf was having a DVT or something was pending. So we can use these forms of digital empathy to strengthen the doctor-patient relationship, but also find those problems early. And even though it's not me really texting you, you're going to feel that I want to do something for Dr. Kraft. I'm going to sort of be in that integrated loop, and that will help all outcomes and raise all boats.
Yeah, and I'll just add, use AI to help your empathy. Having doctors have AI analyze them and how they're speaking to their patient and improve their bedside manners. That's another way of using these tools to improve that doctor-patient relationship. And at the end of the day, I tell all my doctors, we need to educate our patients because they're going to come in. When I was a med student, they would come in with Dr. Google's paperwork and saying, here, this is what Dr. Google says. And now they're coming in with, this is what Dr. ChatGPT says that I need to do. So we need to educate our doctors and our patients how to use these tools, which is a great segue to our next question. Let's see. Sarah says, for those of us who are new to AI, what tools would you recommend we should start learning and exploring so we can better understand it?
Well, I think it's going to be a better question for you because there's so many tools out there. And there's a new one every week. Maybe you start with the basics, right? You start with ChatGPT and help it with a differential diagnosis, or pretend have a conversation. Some of these have incredible possibilities if you know what the right prompts are. So sometimes there's some good examples of good prompt engines. And again, sometimes some of them aren't perfect. You can help find the challenges and inform the teams. But I'll pitch that over to you, Harvey, because you probably have a good long first list.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just like riding a bike. Find an AI. Right now, all of them, I call it the AI wars. They're all fighting. They're all making it free, or at least giving you some free access. Jump into one of them. I'm biased when I say I really do like ChatGPT a lot. So I would say go there and then just start using it like a bike. Ask it questions. And then if you don't like the answer, no matter what, always say, wait, say that again, or tell me more. And then come to these conferences. We're going to go over just basic stuff like prompt engineering and those things that can help you get a better result. One thing to keep in mind is if you ask a question, let's just say you're a healthcare professional and someone else that's not a healthcare professional asks the same question, you will get a better result from the AI. And you're like, why? You're speaking the medical language. You're almost prompting it a certain way, whereas the patient doesn't know the medical lingo and it's going to ask it a little differently. And so with all that stuff, there's tons of free information online. Brooks will put on we have an AI forum that will put that you're welcome to come, and we're going to have free classes and information and news that you're welcome to join. So great question.
I'll say one other point. It's so hard to keep up and it's moving so quickly. One of the things at NextMed Health, which is not an AI conference, so it's a through line, Anthony Chang, who many of us are friends with, who runs AI Med, the morning of, before we start our formal sessions, we're going to do a AI workshop. So it'll be a bit of AI 101, learning what an LLM is, what maybe some prompts are. Harvey, I want to throw you into that one as well. So we'll have a 3-hour block just to kind of get your feet wet, kind of as a bit of an AI 101. And so that will be part of what we'll do at NextMed Health.
Can't wait. Sounds fun. The next one, how do you approach a healthcare system to use more AI? Oh yeah, did I already do that? I think we may have. Let me go to the next one. Sorry. Can we do that now? But the level of clinical standard is a barrier. So call it wellness. We would love to find an opportunity to bridge the gap. Check us out. Okay, sorry. I'm just clicking through.
Need your AI digital health. Questions. Digital.health. That's the website.
There it is. All right. And then smart mirror. Yes. And then Doug. Okay, he's just going over more stats. Let's keep going to the next. Man, there's a lot of questions.
I think the future of doing a webinar like this is people can write their text in their comments, and the AI synthesizes the best questions from all of them. So maybe that's something someone should build. I think probably Zoom AI does that, right? Because you can look at a lot of comments and go, what's the theme? If you have thousands of people writing comments, what's bubbling up as an unmet need or question? So yeah, here's one.
Here we go. Great to see you, Harvey and Daniel. How do you see AI empower our patients, not only through the use of digital therapeutics and wearables, but also by reducing medical knowledge gap between patients and the medical team? So how do you see that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we're entering this era of self-health, right? Meaning now a lot of folks can't even get to a primary care doctor, let alone a specialist. And so now, people go out of pocket, they'll buy a Ring or a Whoop or an Apple Watch and start to get insights from them. When you get the engaged, empowered consumer, that's the new drug, right? So it's empowering folks to get a little on top of their health and their wellness. It used to just be steps and sleep, and now it's more things, right? The give you these little check engine light components to give you early warning, whether it's AFib or you have the flu. And then, now a lot of these digital therapeutics are over the counter, right? Some of them need FDA clearance and prescription, but many of them are not. So that means part of this future, and we're going to do building this on digital.health, is you've got an unmet pain point as a consumer or a patient. You get matched the right solution for you, right? It might be the right wearable to run a marathon or the right platform to manage your kids' mental health issues. But then most importantly, that gap, we don't want these things to be siloed. How does that connect back to your care team, which might be your primary care doctor, your specialist, your nurse practitioner, or your nutritionist, or all of them, so that when you have data collected and your whoop says something is a little bit off, it gives the right appropriate nudge to your clinical care team to maybe check in. So I think it's a combination of self-health and health care integrating together. That's still very hard friction to make those things meld based on all the problems we talked about earlier, incentives, workflow, Epic, and all these things are not particularly always innovation friendly to connect those dots.
Great. And this is a similar question. How do you see AI might impact teaching in healthcare? And I'll start it. My favorite phrase in medical school was see one, do one, teach one. And then I saw the first intubation and they're like, hey, Harvey, here you go. You're next. And I was like, whoa, I just saw this thing. And it's kind of scary at that time because I was just learning. I was a medical student. And now having VR, AI powered together, and I'm able to virtually intubate 1,000,000 times and all the difficult cases and the different tools that are instruments that are out there, and I can do the same thing in different techniques. I'm like, wow, I'm a little jealous. I wish I had that in medical school. So Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going from see one, do one, teach one to see one and simulate, and then you might do one. I'm a pilot. Love lessons from aviation. Every commercial pilot flying your airliner has to go and do simulation training every year to practice engine outs and all sorts of other emergency elements so they could get in flight simulators. Now we are bringing that equivalent to the OR and beyond. OSO VR is a pretty well-known platform built by a friend of mine that enables you to go in the OR and practice an orthopedic procedure. And not just the procedure, but you can do that with a team element. So you can practice a trauma room element bay, or just interacting with a patient with in a primary care visit. And one example that's coming up now, we talk about conversational AI, working with a couple of Brown University medical students building sort of an AI for the OSCEs, the sort of simulated patients. You talk to the patient, they talk to you, they tell the problems, they listen to how you as the clinician interact and score you. Are you using empathy? Are you using too complex words? So that's going to speed up some of those elements. You still want humans and real experience, but you can get lots and lots of experience flying that plane. Many of you might fly Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can learn almost anything on a flight simulator. That can translate to the healthcare world. So that's going to impact teaching. And then the other one is virtual, augmented, and extended reality. Who wants to learn the Krebs cycle on a round chart? What if you're the electron flying through the Krebs cycle? Or what if you're learning cardiac anatomy? And I can never remember tetralogy of Fallot because it's some chart and some end. But now you walk through that heart, you take it apart, put it back together. There's a virtual heart platform at Stanford that does that. That can embed that. And I think we're ripe for reimagining medical education. CME is ridiculously broken and isn't very effective. And I think AI, when it learns how you learn and can adapt to what your deficiencies are and can integrate and sneak in learning into your day-to-day elements, it's really evidence-based and patient-based, can be a huge sea change.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, because the skill that we have is those decades and decades. So what that did was repetition and seeing the different ways that diabetes presented or different ways that cancer presented. Now through AI, we're able to see all those permutations quicker. There's some cases that you and I read about, and we probably never will see that in our life career because it's so rare. But if you're able to see it through AI and the different versions of it, man, what a way of learning. All right, so then the next
question. But also, go ahead. But we have to also teach the software what it needs to learn. There was a question earlier about digital pathology. That's a fascinating area because now we're mostly familiar with AI reading, CT scans, ultrasounds, etc. But digital pathology, they're still mostly doing old-fashioned slides. But now you can look at that digitally, and the AI with even an H&E stain can tell if that's breast cancer, if it's HR positive or ER positive, PR positive. We can do the molecular analysis without even doing the stains or molecular pieces. So you can find all sorts of very hard to sort out what it is on a simple pathology slide. And many diseases that we count as type 2 diabetes or lung cancer, they're very different at the molecular or genetic level. So we're going to use AI to say this is type 1B of type 2 diabetes, not type 3C, and that needs to be managed differently with diet, medication, exercise, etc. So almost every disease with digital pathology, digital radiology, and this hopefully a new field of digital almost diagnostics, the sort of diagnostician won't just be doing pathology or radiology, they'll be blending it all together with the help of that AI agent or the AI-enabled tumor board, for example. That's where the huge opportunity is. And to understand diseases at a much more segmented, personalized level.
Agreed. Next question from Tara. How do you see AI and the metaverse playing together, playing part in the healthcare industry? Thank you.
It's not the metaverse, it's the Mediverse, MEDI, trademark. Well, one example, early in the pandemic, all the gyms were closed and everyone was sort of pent up. I got my Oculus Quest out and I was one of the first people on a platform called Supernatural, which is a workout program. You can really sweat. You knock balls around and you dodge things. It's really engaging. It got bought by Meta for about $400 million. The lead coach from that, Leanne Pedante, is going to be at NextMed Health talking about the power of the metaverse and AI, well, metaverse and VR to reimagine yourself and your ability and also cross-connect with community. That's a super engaging platform. It's become social also, and it soon will adapt. We're going to have AI build your metaverse environment for you in real time, play the music that's going to motivate you, the exercise that you need to do in real time based on your physiology and your vital signs and your mobility score. And so that's one piece where AI is going to meet the metaverse. And then, of course, you can get clinical care. It might be more engaging than being on a Zoom call with a virtual team or meet other patients like you as a support group. So lots and lots of opportunity blending, mixed, extended, augmented, and virtual reality with AI that can sort of create those connections and custom environments.
Okay. Next question. How do we fit in occupational health medical systems with AI?
Occupational health. Well, that's often, I was a flight surgeon in the Air National Guard, which is a glorified occupational health worker, but taking care of fighter pilots. And a lot of occupational health is based on standards and rules, some of which might be deregulated in the current environment. But you could, I'm making this up, but you could use AI and other things to scan a room, or is that how safe? I've seen a platform using Apple Vision Pro and its LiDAR to scan a space and go, this is a fall risk. This is an area where you want to make it safer for an older population. That might be one way to sort of scan your environments and see what are the health risks, but also, potentially to understand for occupational health, is that worker in the flight line or in doing physical labor, what's their health look like? Are they safe? Are they having back issues? Are they moving correctly using, lots of privacy issues here, but privacy is kind of dead, sorry. But that could really improve occupational health by getting ahead of the curve, not waiting for the back injury, or designing your spaces in smarter ways based on who's using them and adapting. So a lot of the occupational health rules are great, but they're kind of cookie cutter and they're one size fits all. They can be really adapted to the environment in which they are and be transmitted and communicated in much more engaging ways.
Yeah. And I'll add to the patient side. I think you can make it fun. Use the multimodality, and like you said, you're doing physical therapy, and it's I had a stroke, but I'm now using my hands, or the camera is able to use it, and I can do this at home. So I think there's all these applications.
Oh yeah, I was probably thinking. Occupational OT and PT. I'm probably thinking more about the safety of the environment, occupational side of health. But the PT world, that's huge because with VR, AR, and AI, you can engage it. You can gamify. There's a platform called XR, I think, where you've got shoulder surgery, now you're hitting balloons with your arm and it's tracking your movement and giving you points, and it communicates back to the physical therapist. Platforms like Hinge Health have done really well by integrating sensors and wearables in physical therapy. And of course, AI can make that more hyper-personalized and create a workout that's most attuned to you and see, wow, you're a little sore that day, your steps are going down, maybe we need to intervene or something's going wrong and get you the help you need before you have a fall or a broken implant.
The next one, what data sets are in the AI-savvy insurance providers using to incentivize preventing sickness, aka staying healthy?
Well, what data sets are the AI savvy? Well, a lot of the insurance companies, Anthem and others, have built platforms using AI to hotspot populations before they might get sick, or to better understand how to give them the right tools for self-health or screening. So that's, if we can get our payers and providers to be more focused on the well care and the health span side of things, not just the sick care side, and align those incentives, that's going to be huge. And that's where I think in the political sphere, we talk now about, we're going to improve our underlying food element to improve metabolic disease. Sure, we still need vaccines, but we need to incentivize that prevention, and AI can be a hot spotter to see the populations that are most likely to have metabolic disease or risk for cancer based on exposures. And those are the data sets that'll be relevant. Who do you know who to go after proactively?
This one's a little long. I'll just summarize it. It says, can AI crunch diagnosis, wearables, imaging, literature, existing drugs to find the effective diagnosis, treatments for long COVID? And then he lists a couple other things. So,
yeah, I mean, there's diseases like I have a friend with both long COVID and another one with what's often called chronic fatigue syndrome or ME. Those are challenging diseases, often probably multi different diseases bundled up in different ways. Some have infectious disease pathologies, some might be COVID. There's a lot of overlaps, but it may be that when you crunch the data, you get that digital twin. We really talk about digital twins, that ability now to look at all, your genome, your metabolome, your microbiome, your sociome, your exposome, all those come together. And if we analyze them, that might give you really insight about who's at risk for long COVID or other challenges. What do those disease paradigms really look like and what might be effective, right? Because there's a lot of variability day to day. What was the thing that made them feel worse or better in that window of time? There are complex immunologic elements. There's a whole immunome that's being developed. We'll have at NextMed Health, Hans Kierstead, who's the CEO of the Human Immunome Project, which is starting to integrate all the new ways you can measure your T cells, B cells, and other components in very complex ways to understand what diseases you've had and what you might be at risk for, and how to build your immune system to prevent them, like the next generation vaccines for cancer or neurologic disease. So lots in that space. I think the real opportunity in the future of healthcare with AI is to integrate those together and build smarter and smarter proactive digital twins, whether it's for your heart, for your whole person, for your community, for your disease state. And that means we have to kind of blow up our traditional medical training and how we do things.
yeah, that's another conversation for sure. The next one is, this is such an exciting conversation. AI in healthcare has so much potential. But I'm curious, what do you see as the biggest challenge in getting hospitals and doctors to actually adopt these tools in their daily workflow?
Well, the answer is in the last word, the workflow. It's all about the workflow, stupid, right? If you have a patient at home with hypertension and a smart connected blood pressure cuff, but there's no way for them to send that data to you in a way that's doesn't take 12 clicks and 12 screens to get to, that means you need to log into their Apple Watch or Aura, et cetera. It's not going to work. So the biggest barrier often is the easy button. There's no easy button for an ER doc, a primary care doc, a specialist to potentially connect with some of the existing apps, solutions, wearables, et cetera, so that they can improve the whole patient, the quadruple aim, outcomes, cost, experience, and dollars. So it's all about the workflow, and some of the workflows that we're all familiar with are not that friendly to innovation. They want to have their walled gardens. So we have to kind of think about design thinking in a lot of these settings. And so workflow and design is key.
Cool. And then we'll have just the last few questions. Guys, what do you think? Will government authorities come up with laws to prevent the introduction of AI into government clinics?
I better be careful with my government comments here. There's, what a laws to prevent it. Well, I think there was something passed recently where AI can start to make prescriptions, right? I think there might be more.
Yeah, there's a bill on the floor right now.
Yeah. Right now, is that well thought out? Do our governance folks? There's like one PhD in all of Congress. There's a bunch of quasi MDs in the Senate, most of whom are questionable in terms of their policies. Does our policymakers even have the ability to come up with rules and laws about AI or healthcare writ large? So how do we educate our policymakers to understand that it's important to keep funding our crown jewel of the NIH and not to destroy the CDC and to fund USAID, because global health impacts human health in the United States, let alone the rest of the world. So there's a lot of kind of like government authority questions in the mix right now. Maybe AI can be used to educate them about the importance of pandemic prevention in Somalia and how that's going to save lives in the United States. Or, we can use AI to upskill. There's examples, a lot of stuff are state-based. Texas tried to completely outlaw telehealth, right? Because their incentive, the lobby there was strong. They didn't want to, have telehealth going outside the state. A lot of these things, there might be state developed, not U.S. centric. We need smart laws, and we need clinicians and scientists and folks who know what's what help inform the policy and the laws. Otherwise, we're going to get them crammed down our throats, and they may not be for the common good.
Cool. Well, I'm going to hit you with two last questions because I really appreciate time and I want to be sensitive to your time. So I appreciate you, Doc. Just, I know people always ask this, what are some of the ethical considerations of implementing AI in medicine?
Well, I'll throw it back to you in a second, but the classic one is you can build a solution. What's the solution? How do you make it? Ethical or equitable? They're kind of often blended. Like if you have a pulse oximeter that doesn't work for folks with darker skin, it gives the wrong O2 stat. That's not probably ethical or equitable in terms of a solution. If you have a data set that's based on genomics only out of white Caucasians from Europe, that's not going to be as equitable if you have ones that are being built like the All of Us trial out of NIH, which I hope survives, that informs the Framingham on steroids. So Framingham, Massachusetts, where a lot of our guidelines come from, is based on a pretty narrow set of European Caucasian nurses, right? That's not necessarily unethical because that's the best thing we could do at the time, but it's not going to be ethical or equitable to be building our AI solutions with not necessarily bad data, but data that's not representative for the patients or the type of community you're working with.
Yeah, and I'll just add, that's a whole another talk you and I could do, but I'm really big on, we need to educate everyone about these things, understanding that these biases exist. How can we address these biases? Is the data set a good one or bad one? And who's defining that good or bad one? I'm really proponent of, let's create a food label equivalent so that every time you use certain AIs, the good, the bad, the unknown, and you can kind of really dissect and be like, oh, for this project, I probably shouldn't use this type of AI because the data set is wrong. Those kind of things would be really important just to understand, so that when we understand, we can use it in medicine. And I know we've kind of talked about it this hour. The next question, just to kind of, I feel like you and I are big futurists, pie in the sky, what we're going to do. What does the future hold for AI-driven innovations in the healthcare? And I know that's a whole other hour, but just some things that come to mind. What are you excited about in the future with AI in healthcare?
So I started out as a benchtop scientist. I did my postdoc at Stanford. I spent time at NIH and other labs. How we do innovation, let's say in the science lab, is getting dramatically upskilled. Now we have the Nobel Prize for the ability to design proteins. I recently got to know Yossi Matias, the head of research for Google, and they launched a week or two ago the sort of Google or Gemini research. I probably the wrong name, but it can enhance your medical research, help you ask the right questions, run the right experiments. There's a company called MetaLoop that is out of Stanford that will be at NextMed Health, where they're making it easier to do research, help you find the right questions, collect the right data, even write your grants and write your papers. So innovation is often a problem. Doing the questions, doing the smart science, packaging it up, communicating it. And AI is going to be a layer for all of that. And MetaLoop and what Gemini is doing are good early examples of that. So that's one level of innovation, the scientific endeavor. And of course, AI meets drug discovery are all ramping up in interesting ways. Synthetic clinical trials, all those elements are AI-driven innovations. So the future is bright. The question is, how do we, harness it in smart ways without going up fully over our skis? Because there's some downsides too. Because you can use AI to design a drug. You also can do one to design a bioterrorism weapon. You can use AI to fly a drone to deliver medical products, but also can be used for military things. So always two sides to the coin. And we, as nowists or futurists, you want to science fiction and red team, blue team some of these implications before they get here.
Yeah, love it. Big picture for me, it's what you said, and I'm really excited just to see. I'm hoping that the cost of healthcare starts going down, and the drugs, for example, you mentioned if we can create a drug at 10% of what it used to cost, then maybe now these drug companies will start addressing certain rare diseases or some custom things that they won't do because it's not economical. But now with the economics working, now we're able to solve diseases and cure cancer and certain things. That's the part that I'm really excited, among many others. With that, Doc, I really want to thank you for your time. This was fun. We'll have to do it again, and I'll be seeing you here in a couple more weeks at the conference. And Doc, you have anything else you want to say? I know I put the link there at the bottom so everybody can join us.
Yeah, thanks so much. This was a fun conversation. Didn't know where it worked. Couldn't get my AI background to work, but other than that, I think the takeaway is, don't wait for the future to arrive. The future's coming faster than you think, and we all can play a role in catalyzing its future. That means you need to have your eyes outside of your known specialty or your own sort of technology box. That's what we'd love to do at NextMed Health, which is coming up March 30th, April 2nd, San Diego, nextmed.health. If any of you guys want a friends and family special code to get a discounted registration, just DM me on LinkedIn under Daniel Kraft. Also, you also might want to try digital.health to find some AI and other solutions that you can start using today. And if they don't exist there, maybe you guys can start making them, or AI can help you build them. So thanks, Harvey, for having me, and let's have some more conversations in the future.
All right, Doc. Thank you so much, and we'll do it again. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and have a great day.